Number one, he fired the pandemic team 2 years ago. Number two, he's been defunding Centers for Disease Control, so we don't have the experts in place that we need. I hope he's right that the virus doesn't come here, that nobody gets sick. That would be a wonderful outcome. But the bottom line is we are not ready for this kind of thing. And the president is not a scientist, is a nice way to phrase it, doesn't seem to believe in science. We are as exposed to this kind of thing as we've ever been, probably more so. This year, 40,000 people will be shot with illegal and legal handguns. Forget about the assault weapons, which is another disgrace. We shouldn't be selling assault weapons to the average person. They're designed for the military to kill as many people as possible. They're not used for going out and hunting. The last time I saw a deer with a flak jacket was a long time ago. So you really have to focus on this. And if you have background checks, and let me step back for a second. The federal law requires you to have a background check before you can buy a gun in this country if you buy it from a gun store. So the gun rights activists would say, oh, you're going to take away my freedoms. No, right now you can't go into a gun store and buy a gun if you have a psychiatric problem, you're a criminal or a minor. And in fact, what my organization has done is we sent undercover people into these stores. They would insist on a background check, and when they didn't, we sued them, and you can measure the fact that they've really done something. You know where Greenwood, Oklahoma is? It's a town right by Tulsa. And I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, maybe 3 months ago and heard about this and then went over to see it and then gave an economic plan in Greenwood. Greenwood, for those of you that don't know, was called Black Wall Street. It had nothing to do with finance, so I don't know where that name came from. But it was a wealthy African-American community just outside of Tulsa. In 1921, there was a group of white thugs who came through in the middle of the night, burnt the town to the ground, and killed 200 people. That's what happened there. I mean, there's been terrible things going on in this country. I think this number is just staggering. The average black family in America has only 1/10 the wealth of the average white family. Just think about that number, 90% less. We have to do something about that. And so I've focused on creating jobs and improving education. I have a plan coming out of the Greenwood, we'll call the Greenwood Initiative. Our objective is to have 1 million more homes in black hands over the next 10 years. I got elected 3 times in New York City in an overwhelmingly Democratic populous city, the biggest city in the country. And I can tell you what we did in terms of pulling people together. For example, I went up to Albany, which is the state capital in New York. The Senate was in Republican hands and the Assembly was in Democratic hands. I wanted to get the ability to permit gay marriages in New York City. I'm a believer that it's none of the business who you love, who you want to marry, or whatever. You should be free to do that. I went up to Albany, and I went to the Republicans, and I sat down with a bunch of them, and I convinced the Republicans, even though I was a very liberal New York City mayor, I convinced them to vote for gay marriage. It's not an attempt to find out the truth. It's an attempt to get your soundbite out there. And they talk over each other again and again and again. And I found that difficult. I this time forced myself to do it a little bit. But I didn't grow up where you step on people. And that's what they do all the time.
It's a beautiful